Hi, welcome back to another Rise video. Today we're going to be talking about magic. So if you look on your screen right now, you should be able to see I have bolded some of the magic focuses in Rise. These are in the intelligence and wisdom attributes. So the different types of spells that can be cast in Rise fall under each of these categories. You're either going to be casting alteration, animism, conjuration, illusion, elemancy, mysticism, harmonics, psychic, visionary, or restoration spells. I'll quickly go through each one, describing kind of what that kind of spell would entail. And then we're going to take a look at a couple example spells to look at how a spell is cast, finally finishing off with some basic information on how to cast spells. Thanks so much for watching. If you like these videos, please click the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment below what you kind of want to see with me go over next with Rise. So to begin with, alteration has to do with spells that will be changing something, changing the composite structure of a material, or altering how powerful something is, altering something. Animism spells usually are going to have to do with, speaking with animals or making something come alive or talking to plants, things like that. Conjuration is the summoning or conjuring of something, whether it be a tool, a spirit, or a monster. Illusion spells, these are based off of making things disappear or creating illusions, creating mist that would appear in front of you, or making lights appear, or things like that. Even invisibility. Next up, we have elemancy. These would be covering the main elements that I wanted to introduce into the Rise system. I tried to get a good balance of elements, and I actually came up with 4 main elements and then 4 offshoot elements. Some of them make more sense than others, but the 4 main elements are fire, water, air, and earth. And then the offshoot elements from that would be lightning, ice, metal, and then my final element I've been calling absence. So kind of interesting. Then we have mysticism, and these are like the altering of fate. So since it's a tabletop RPG, that could be changing the dice rolls or kind of space-time manipulation, portals, and time magic. Then harmonics is actually the magic that covers anything based off of sound, the vibration of things, levitating things, or any sound-based magic. Psychic is the type of magic that relates to telepathy, lifting things with your mind, speaking to minds, connecting to other minds, psychically contacting others. Then we have restoration. This is restoring something to what it once was, or mostly healing spells. And then finally, visionary. So these are, far sight, or casting your eyes far away, being able to see something that you can't normally see, seeing into the, past or the future, seeing something or hearing something or interacting with things that you wouldn't normally be able to tell with your normal senses. So we'll look quickly at some of the spells. I actually wanted to start by going over some elemancy spells because I think they're the most straightforward, just kind of damage-based spells. So when you look at the spells in Rise, you'll see a table. It will be something like this, where you start here with the spell category. Notice all of these are elemancy spells. There are a lot of spells, like I mentioned in my last video. There's about 200 spells currently. A lot of them are in elemancy. There's a lot of elemancy spells. The next category, it'll tell you whether this spell category is either in intelligence or wisdom. And if we go back to attributes, elemancy is definitely in intelligence. So it just tells you how you would cast that spell, what attribute you would use. Next up, the level of spell. These would be, the first 2 here are novice level spells, then adept, and then master. Those are the 3 kind of ranks that I've currently come up with: novice, adept, and master, in terms of ranking things for how you can acquire spells. There'll be times when you level up when you can acquire a novice spell, an adept spell, or a master spell, depending on your attribute scores and if you meet the requirements, as well as how many points it costs to level up in the level up tree. Then we have spell name. So these are, all of them here have the word fire before them, or down here you can see lightning. So not all the spells will have that, but in the Elemancy I did want to clarify what kind of spells these are. So these are fire spells, and the first one is called Embers, the next one Blinding Torch, Overheat, Fireball, and so on. The next column is it requires one of the specializations. So for example, none of the fire spells do, but for the lightning spells, they all require Elemancer as the specialization. The next column over, we have the MP cost, and typically the novice level spells will have the lowest MP cost, adept will be somewhere in the middle, and then master will have some of the highest level MP costs. MP again stands for magic points. It's one of the attributes it's one of the what would I call it? I guess points that you have as a character, kind of like health or your movement speed, armor, things like that. And you gain more if you choose to when you level up, and some races start with more or some less. Next up, we have the type of action it is, and I haven't gone over actions yet in Rise, but that'll be in our next video. But most of these spells will be major actions. Some of them might be a minor action. The range of the spell, so that is, if I cast a spell, what things are going to be affected by the spell. So, for example, Embers makes a 3 meter by 10 meter cone. That is the maximum range there. That's 3 meters at the end, 10 meters out, and then a cone from you out from that, kind of like a triangular shape. Whereas the Blinding Torch spell affects any creature who can see that you've cast this spell. Although I might need to adjust that, so that would probably be in that target spot. Sorry, I'll have to adjust that slightly. And then targets and areas. This is for this one, it would be all creatures within that 3 by 10 meters range. This would be all creatures who see it. This would be all creatures within a 5 meter area of your 20 meter range. And then finally, we have a description here. Spell description. So the description of Embers is you would burn all characters in front of you in a cone. I suppose I should change that to all targets in front of you. In a cone 3 meters wide by 10 meters long. Burning foes take 1d6 arcane damage every round they are on fire. So it causes more of a status effect where things are going to be taking damage over time. Next up, we have the target number. So when you go to cast a spell, you do have to try to beat the target number of the spell. If you roll your dice and you do not get higher than a 13, you did not end up casting Embers. It failed. We have the duration, if it was to last longer. And then there is a concentration spot here. So the X means it does require concentration, whereas the dash means there is no concentration there. So those were some examples of some spells. Like I said, there are a lot of spells in here. A lot of them I'm still working on. We'll be looking at a ton of these spells as we go on making more characters. Just to finish up here, let's go through some of the basics of these spells. So first off, it says all mages must select one of the 3 types of spellcasting methods to commit to. You, when you make a character, have to decide, 1, is this character going to be able to cast spells? And initially, maybe they won't, and you won't have to worry about this. But maybe at level 8, you're like, you know what? I think my character wants to train in magic. I've had a knight this whole time, but my knight actually decided they wanted to learn some fire spells. So they're going to now learn to train in magic. And when they do, they're going to have to select which type of casting method that they're going to use. And all their spells are going to have to be cast in this method. So the spell casting methods are verbal commands, somatic motions, and having an arcane nucleus. So a verbal command, you would actually physically speak out an incantation like, oh, flames, hear me and roar, and then you cast your spell, and you could only cast a spell by saying that incantation. A somatic motion, you'd have to like move your hands in a certain way, and make that happen. You can only cast your spell if you move your hands in a certain way. And then finally, an arcane nucleus, you don't need to say anything or move your body, but you need to have something on your physical person that allows you to channel that arcana. So like maybe a necklace or earrings or a ring or something like that. But it could be anything like a staff or even a pair of underwear. Who knows? Next up, we say that the spell cannot be cast if the mage does not have the MP required to cast it. If the spell costs 12 MP and you only have 10, you can't cast a spell. Once you attempt to cast a spell, you have to roll to beat or tie the spell target number, using either your intelligence or wisdom, as well as the corresponding focus. And the result of this roll is called your spell power. If your spell power does not exceed the target number, the spell fails, regardless of the outcome. But the MP required to cast the spell is still spent, so you'd still lose MP. If you roll doubles with your spell power, then you can use a stunt. And we've gone over stunts before, that some of them can be very, very powerful and can even increase the power or duration or some other effect of your spell. But doubles points cannot be generated on spells that are cast as a minor action. Again, we'll go over actions later. Most spells are acquired as the mage gains experience or access to either tomes or trainers as you level up, although some mages may be born with an inherent ability to cast arcana, known as basic spells. I'll go over basic spells at a later time. They're sort of just like more of a mundane type spell. For example, one of them just lets you change the color of your clothes. And when a spell deals damage to a target, the target loses HP equal to the spell minus the target's arcane armor rating. There are two types of armor in Rise. That would be physical armor and arcane armor. And therefore, there's also two types of damage, physical damage and arcane damage. So I've separated things out between the two. Well, this has been our talk on magic in the Rise system. There's still a whole lot to cover. There's other important info down here, and other tables for extra information. There's a lot with magic. Like I said, there's about 200 spells. I'm constantly working on more. I've even been trying to dabble in this concept of like creating your own spells or combination spells where you can only cast a spell if you know these two other spells. I've been working on a lot of stuff, so I hope you guys enjoy. If you like, again, please leave a like on the video, subscribe, leave a comment on what you wanted to see me go over next. If there's a certain type of those spells that you were really interested in, maybe you really wanted to learn about the harmonic spells or mysticism, please leave a comment to let me know. Otherwise, our next video, I'm going to be talking about the different types of actions and things called conviction points, as well as which would be a conviction action, and then our targeting system where you can target certain body parts that would result in specific things happening if you targeted that body part. And then next week, when we come on Monday, I wanted to upload a video on making characters. That's my next big thing for this channel, to start a big series where I just start making random characters as we go. So if you have any character thoughts or suggestions or a concept you want me to build off of, please let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Rise, and my name's Alex. Bye-bye.